Hello Stargazers, Bryan Colter here, Evolutionary Astrologer, for another horoscope report for the upcoming Aquarian new moon that happens in just a couple days. But really, the energy as I describe it are going to be connected to evolutionary intentions over the next couple weeks. And even beyond that, because as we'll discover, this Aquarian archetypal complex is very much connected to the overarching theme of the year and will apply to the coming months. So this is a super important new moon. And to understand this Aquarian new moon, first we want to visit the two planets that rule Aquarius, because it'll teach us so much about these energies. And the two planets that rule this sign are Saturn, the more classical ruler of Aquarius, and also Uranus, the more modern rulership of this sign, are both heavily connected to this new moon because Saturn is in its own sign of Aquarius at 15 degrees of Aquarius. The new moon itself is at 12 degrees, so the Saturn is conjunct the moon and the sun. And then we have Uranus in the sign of Taurus, 10 degrees of Taurus, which has been in this ongoing square aspect last year and this year with the aforementioned Saturn. So Uranus and Saturn have been at cross purposes, have been square to each other. The difficulty of these two very different energies. Yes, they're both connected to the sign of Aquarius, but they still represent very different evolutionary intentions, not only in our own personal lives, but within the collective as well. When we think about how these two planets have been affecting the sea of people, it's really highlighting the tensions between Saturn, which is the old, the outdated, the rigid structures, the formations that have solidified. It's the Lord of Karma, so it represents the karmic habit energies of the past, okay? And this desire to keep the status quo, that what we have learned, there's great wisdom in that past energy too, but to just stay stuck in that. Saturn likes to slow things down. It likes to be a little bit more rigid, Uranus, however, is the rule breaker. It's the awakener. It's the revolutionary. It wants to break free from the confines of Saturn. So when these two planets are in this hard angle, this 90-degree angle, it's highlighting these energies even more. So restriction, basically Saturn versus Uranus, liberation and freedom. And then on a more personal level, which we're going to talk about a lot here, because we want to understand where this Aquarian new moon is happening in your own personal chart, is representing the more Saturnian, diligent, hard-working energy. When we're working with Saturn in our lives, we want to ask ourselves the question, where do I need to bust my butt? Basically, where can I apply this industrious Saturnian energy in my life to paint a masterpiece, to accomplish a great work? That happens to be very Uranian in this case. Uranus is the process of freedom, as I said. It's the process of individuation. Kind of a fancy word, but it just means becoming a truer version of yourself. This is the clash between, as I see it, ego and soul. The part of our personality that is learned behavior from culture and family, expectations on how we should be. Uranus is more soul energy, divine personality. And these two things, ego and soul, if you will, soul personality, they blend and merge together. Nature and nurture is the way this is often framed. So it's important to know where Saturn and Uranus is in your personal chart, the two houses that they're in, if they're interacting with any other planets, to recognize, okay, partially, this great work is me doing this process of individuation, and in what areas of my life is this happening? And this is coming into a laser-sharp focus now during this Aquarian new moon. Aquarius is known as similar words with Uranus, which is the rebel, the revolutionary, the genius, and the criminal, all very different archetypes. But what they have in common is this ability to think outside the box, to view reality much differently than the mainstream. So new moons in general are about new beginnings. So during new moons is a perfect time to begin new projects, go in new directions that happen to be very Aquarian, that happen to be more in alignment with who you are in your heart of hearts, in your soul of soul, the part of you that's been evolving over many lifetimes, where you can break free from the confines of expectation. And you look to where Aquarius is in your chart. Again, the new moon happens at 12 degrees. And figure out what house that's in and think to yourself, okay, and then you find the meaning of that house. How can I create this new rebellious beginning in this area of my life? How can I have more freedom, autonomy, individuality, and agency in this specific area of my life? Why? So that I can evolve. This is evolutionary astrology as we proactively work with the symbols for our own betterment and evolution, instead of having these archetypal fields just run through us randomly without our awareness of them happening. If we work with the energies, which are always ebbing and flowing, we put our personal growth and evolution into hyperdrive. Now, if you don't know how to read your chart and don't know where 12 degrees of Aquarius is, I recommend my 45-minute tutorial video. I'll put a link above and below, you know the drill. And check it out if you like to learn about your chart, because learning about the houses, where the planets in the sky today is really critical in your unfolding journey. And that tutorial can be seen as a companion video for what I do here bi-weekly on this channel. Now, taking a step back, looking at this energy again more broadly, the last 2 years have been very Saturn dominant. Saturn's still very strong because, after all, it is in its own sign of Aquarius right now. So it's still a formidable force, of course, okay? However, the last 2 years, it has been utterly on steroids. Yes, I use words like restriction. It's linked to feelings of claustrophobia, of isolation, of depression, of loneliness. People have been feeling a lot of those emotions over the last couple of years as we've been forced to be separated, quite literally, okay? The planet of separation. And it's been so dominant. We could say it has a very much a force of contraction. It feels like contraction. And allow me to nerd out here for a moment, but this makes me feel or think about what it must have felt to be Luke Skywalker in the original Star Wars series, when him and his companions were on the evil Empire ship, and somehow they got trapped in the trash compactor. And here it is, the walls were closing in. And there's a sense of urgency. I don't want to get squished. I don't want to get squished. That was the feeling, the claustrophobia. That's what the last couple years have felt like, the walls closing in. Contraction. Now we've entered 2022, where Uranus is receiving a little bit more breathing room, we might say, okay? More expansion. Now that word expansion is really critical for another reason. But now we're leaving the energy, have left the energy of contraction into expansion. Again, the energies ebb and flow, which, having expansion in our lives this year, what a breath of fresh air, needless to say. Now, the reason I'm using this word expansion is because of Jupiter, known as the planet of luck and expansion, the greater benefic, has entered Pisces, its own sign, where it will be for most of this year. It'll enter into Aries for a little bit in the middle of the year and come back into Pisces. But the planet of expansion in its own sign, okay, expanding all these other energies that are already going on, and giving this Aquarian energy, this Uranian-Saturnian complex, some turbo boosters, putting it into the forefront, putting it into the limelight, saying, we're still looking at this, but it's going to feel a little better, or let's say optimistic. It's going to help invigorate our faith in ourselves, faith in life. Jupiter is known as the faith builder. Even as Jupiter entered Pisces, things started to loosen up a little bit. Saturnian kind of loosened their grip slightly. For example, some countries in the world are removing their restrictions. This is a theme I think is going to continue. Uranus is also going to continue, bucking the system. I want a different life. Uranus is known as the god of earthquakes and lightning bolts. Here it is in the sign of Taurus, which is the sign of Earth, as it's an Earth sign, so it's linked to seismic activity. In fact, Uranus stationed in the last video I did a couple weeks ago. And as I've said many times on these videos, when a planet is stationed, it is at maximum power. The day, I think it's either the day it's stationed or maybe the day after or something like that, that volcano erupted in the sea down by Tonga, There's a literal manifestation of a maximized Uranus in the sign of Taurus, seismic activity, okay? It's also, Taurus is also linked to money, food, security, things we value, nature, food. And the god of earthquakes and lightning bolts, when it travels through a sign, it wants us to innovate, evolve, preferably technologically, because that's what Uranus is connected to, technology, to a whole new level regarding these things, these Taurus things. And Taurus is very much of things. It's tactile, it's tangible because it's an earth sign. But as we go through this process of invention, of innovation to hopefully a whole new level, okay, it's also the planet of instability and disruption, which goes hand in hand with a new invention. You're trying to get that plane off the ground for the first time. You're creating the Wright brothers' first flight. Those wings were shaky. They probably had a lot of crashes, That's a Uranian activity, inventing something new, along with the great instability that goes along with that process of bringing us into a whole new paradigm. So with Saturn loosening its grip, Uranus getting a little bit of expansive quality, we're going to see people coming together to ask for a better way, for more human rights, for more personal freedom. In fact, Uranus, so strong now, okay, again, I know it's stationed 2 weeks ago, but it's still moving very slowly in the sky, squaring this new moon. 50,000 truckers in Canada and the U.S. are on strike right now, saying enough is enough, this freedom energy bubbling up. And even, coming back to Star Wars, what were they? Rebellion. They were, the rebels, they were freedom fighters, okay? They represent, metaphorically, the Uranian instinct, okay, to have more agency in our lives. Saturnian energy is more of a metaphor for the evil empire. No planet is evil in its essence, okay? But every planet has a dark side. Every planet has a light side. The dark side of Uranus is taking liberation and freedom too far and getting to a place of utter anarchy. Hopefully we can find a healthy balance between Saturn and Uranus, because Uranus, if taken to dark side extremes, wants to just completely destroy the old and make everything new, pure anarchy, okay? So that's not a good idea. So we want to find a healthy balance between the old, allow that old to be a healthy foundation for the new paradigm we're trying to create for ourselves. So Aquarius, for starters, is an air sign. It's on the mental plane. It deals with our intelligence. It's the genius archetype, that inventiveness, as I said before, right? The Saturnian ways of controlling through Aquarius is through technology in this information age that we're in. And the idea of the mental plane is it's connected to our intelligence, of course, but how we perceive reality. And if you control the information, you therefore control the perceptions of others who are viewing that information. Within what? Within the library of the world in this new age, which is the internet. Okay? So the control of the internet through censorship, as well as just the information that's allowed out there, okay, controls the perception of the people and keeps them in this fear state or low consciousness or egoic state. And when people are in this fear state, they're more easily manipulated by these external forces. So we have a war on perception. And we also have, and this is very much connected to the idea that Uranus is in Taurus, the money sign, we have a war of currency going on, which will be a dominant theme this year and beyond. Okay? Not only is Uranus the instability and inventiveness in the sign of Taurus in our money markets, Okay. We also have a very rare event, a major event, which is Pluto returning to exactly where it was in the sky 248-ish years ago, that it was when the U.S. was birthed. Okay, the birth chart of the U.S. has Pluto in the second house in the later degrees of Capricorn. Pluto has now returned. This is one of the biggest events of this year, is the U.S.'s Pluto return, and it's happening in the second house of the U.S. chart, which has a lot of overlap in meaning with the second sign of Taurus. Second phase symbolism is so huge this year. Second house deals with money, our resource base, food, water, shelter, security, also self-worth. So inner security, outer security, Pluto, the death bringer, the lord of the underworld, not to just die, but to transform, to transmute, the death of the old into the birth of the new. Okay. So Pluto returns can be pretty bumpy. And of course, here it is in the house of money of the U.S. The USD is the dominant currency in the world. Okay. And inflation just went up a lot. But I say this is a war of currency because we talk about the innovation of Uranus in the sign of Taurus. As soon as it went into Taurus a few years ago, I was like, oh, this has a lot to do with crypto. Okay. And lo and behold, when Uranus entered Taurus, crypto started going crazy, way up, way down, way up, instability before the innovation gains traction, before it gains the stability. And even cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are known as stable coins. I know they don't seem that way, but that's the goal, okay? Stable meaning they can be relied upon. So the war of currency and perception. And there's many countries in the world which are starting to adopt CBDC, central bank digital currency. And that's not the same as Bitcoin or Ethereum, okay, or crypto in general. It's a digital currency. The stable coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others, okay, are Uranian in their very essence. The CBDC are Saturnian in their very essence, because the Bitcoin and the like, okay, the Uranian coins, if you will, at the very foundation are built on Uranian concepts of utter transparency, of freedom, of liberation, okay, of accountability, uncorruptibility, okay, towards freedom. The central bank digital currency at the foundation are built on the same values of the fiat currency, which is control. Okay, there's no transparency. And it is susceptible to what has been a problem with fiat currency, which is fuckery, greed, power, okay? So there's going to be a war of currency this year, okay? Yet there's this expansive quality with Jupiter helping Uranus out, okay? So it's going to be an interesting year. But there we see the Saturn-Uranus square even in effect with these two different cryptocurrencies. It goes way beyond crypto, but that's a major focus, a war of our securities, how we, transact. This is all Taurus, Pluto in the second house themes. So the Saturnian-Uranian warfare will continue to be waged. However, I'm very optimistic because after all, Jupiter is in its own sign. Okay, we have left contraction. We're now into expansion. And by the end of the year, the level of collective consciousness will be higher than at the beginning of the year, which is really important. The work of David R. Hawkins, I talk about him all the time. It's so important. He, over many decades in a lot of research, he created what he called the scale of consciousness from 0 to 1,000. Anything below 200 is ego-based or fear-based or low consciousness thoughts, emotions, and actions. Every thought, every word spoken, every action calibrates at a certain level of consciousness. Anything below 200 is low consciousness. Everything above 200 is positive. It's powerful. It's life-affirming. It's the soul spectrum, if you will, all the way up to 1,000, which would be Christ consciousness, perfection in human form. So as of about 2000, 2005, for the first time, the collective consciousness had finally risen. The average level had finally risen above 200. I think it reached about 205 or something like that. For the first time, probably like ever, And then in 2020, we went through this tremendous hardship. The Saturnian restriction, claustrophobia, there the walls are closing in, okay? Depression, loneliness, suffering. A lot of people entered into fear states, rightfully so. The average level of the human collective consciousness dipped below 200 for the first time since around the year 2000. And it hit about 195 because there was so much more suffering, so much fear and despair on the planet, lowering the average. And now, this year, I believe it's going to go back over 200 to hit that 205 level, Jupiter returning, hitting this area of expansion. So I'm quite optimistic. Again, I have faith. As more and more people have had enough, tap into this Uranian energy, okay, of this feeling of liberation. And I see people unplugging from the matrix more and more and more. Uranus, the great awakener, choosing with the superpower that is our free will and focused intent to not take part in the matrix, the Maya, the dream, the illusion of it all. Choose not to enter the metaverse, if you will. Just a little bit about me. Historically in my life, I've loved to play video games. There's that technology. And now we have video games on the phone. They're in our pocket at all times if we want to take advantage of it. And they've had quite a grip on me in my life ever since I got my first Nintendo when I was 6 years old. And I still play them from time to time, but with more detached awareness. And if I really get lost in a video game, if I get really lost in the matrix, and I play intensely for, X number of minutes or even hours, some people melt a whole day just playing video games. I used to do that. If I do that, afterwards my brain feels tired, and I visualize what it feels like. It feels like there's a hand leaving the device, whatever it is, computer screen or phone, a hand leaving the device, entering my mind and gripping my brain. And after I do that, I feel like my mind is tired. The life has been sucked out of it. I've been kind of zombified by that experience, allowing myself to get lost in that illusion. Okay? So to not get lost in the mind grip, the brain grip of it all, that's trying to control our perception, not video games per se, but just the internet. Okay? The internet can be a beautiful thing, but it can also be used for great harm. And to be very careful on what information you allow in, recognizing that our perception of reality and the level of our consciousness can be quite controlled. And I see that as more and more people unplug from the matrix, beacons of light, tribes of people will come together all over the planet, creating this rainbow tribe of a matrix, if you will, where we will separate from the matrix, okay, from the evil empire, if you will, to live life in a more, in a way that really supports human individuality, again, agency and human right, And during this Aquarian new moon, this little baby step of a new beginning hitting a very specific area of your birth chart, how can I create more freedom, more agency, more individualistic expression of who I really am instead of who I've been trained to be by culture and family? How can I create a new beginning to claim more of that in my life? Because ultimately, that's the great work, positive side Saturn. The more we do the great work, yes, it's exhausting, but we cultivate more dignity, self-respect, self-sufficiency in our lives, and we do the hard work necessary to paint that masterpiece, to accomplish that goal. And that's what this year comes down to in a lot of ways, is freedom, is individuation, is soul expression personified. And that's the core evolutionary intention. with the goal being to expand our consciousness. Now, as usual, I'm going to transition into the guided meditation. I use a technology called binaural beats, so I recommend you use headphones. And this one is, like the last meditation I did, very much focused on the heart space. Because we talk about the level of consciousness, the level at the heart is pretty high. It's about 600 out of 1,000 in the spectrum of peace, love, and joy. And the more we do activities, and meditation's a beautiful one, that really help to create that love and joy within us, the less susceptible we are to the more fear-based subset of thoughts and emotions. So this meditation, if practiced continually through the law of repetition, becomes a powerful force in our lives. Enjoy. Relax into a nice, comfortable position and take care that your spine is straight, as this is the main energy channel of the body. And let's begin by focusing on your breath. And feel nice, slow inhales, filling your belly and then your lungs. And at the top of your breath, immediately exhale at the same speed from the belly first and then the lungs. And now add a count to your breath. And let's do 7 seconds per inhale and 7 seconds per exhale. Again, always into the belly first. And if you find that 7 seconds is too slow, do 6 seconds, whatever's comfortable for you. The slower the breath, the more you slow down your heart rate and enter into a beautiful meditative state. So you enter into the meditation through the breath. And on your next inhale, feel as though your energy is expanding in all directions in the room that you're in or outside, pushing against the walls of the room, if you will. And as you exhale, bring the energy back into you. And as you inhale, expand that energy. And as you exhale, bring it back into you. And at the same pace of breath, begin to visualize on the next inhale, entering into you along with the oxygen is a beautiful rosy pink color, entering into your lungs and then expanding out through your entire chest area and into your arms and abdomen and head and legs. And as you exhale, the air goes out, but the energy stays in. And continue to breathe this pink color into your entire body. And now add a golden yellow orb in the center of your chest, in the heart area. So as you breathe in, the pink goes through your body and the gold enters your heart. And within this gold orb is a beautiful golden 6-pointed star radiating from the core of your being. This is your soul energy, the Atman. And with each inhale, that golden six-pointed star is going brighter and brighter along with the colors. And as you exhale, the air goes out, but the energy stays in. On the next inhale, maintain the visualization, but move your conscious awareness down from your heart, through your stomach, through your pelvic floor, through the bottoms of your feet, and into the earth. And visualize that you're actually traveling through the earth, through the ground, passing all the dirt and the rocks and the root system. Down, 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 down. Traveling faster, all the way to the core of the earth. And see yourself in the middle of the earth and visualize a massive, beautiful diamond rotating at the core of the earth. And feel your consciousness connect to that diamond. And ask permission to connect with earth energy. And then feel that earth energy in a beautiful white beam of a color go from the diamond back up through the earth very quickly and into your pelvic floor and entering your body. A beam of white light and going through the center of the triangle in your heart and up through the top part of the star, the top point, through your head, through the crown of your head, all the way up into space, all the way to the heavens. And see that beam of white light connect from the earth to the heavens and then turn around and go back down through space, through your head, through the golden triangle of your heart, and back down to earth. And now match it with the breath. Inhale, see that beam go from earth to heaven. Nice, slow belly breath. And on the exhale, from heaven through the star, back down to the diamond in the center of earth. Inhale, bring it back up through your body to the heaven. And exhale, the beam goes back down to the earth. And continue with this visualization up and down for a few more breaths, and then I'll come back. And now take your left hand and put it on the center of your chest between your nipples. And then put your right hand over your left hand. So your hands are crossed over your heart. And begin to feel the beating of your heart on your hands. And if you can't feel it, you can press your hands into your chest a little bit more until you feel your heartbeat, until you feel that inner throbbing, until you feel that pulse of life. And you begin to feel the throbbing more and more and more until your hands begin to throb. That energy entering into your hands and then through your arms. And through your whole body. And your whole body starts to feel the pulse. And send that throbbing heart energy, that vibration from your heart to all the cells in every part of your body. Feel all your cells throbbing and suffusing with this beautiful white healing light. And now visualize in the center of the six-pointed star in your chest as you hold your heart and feel the pulse. Visualize a small white pearl or orb of white light in the star, in your heart center. And this white pearl has a golden halo, and it begins to pulse with your heartbeat. This white pearl is swirling with light inside it, and it begins to grow as it pulses over and over again, like a lotus unfolding. And let this orb expand and feel your whole body fill with a white light pulsing out of your heart. Now visualize a 12-petal lotus, white lotus in your heart center, with a small golden egg sitting on it. You see this beam of light from earth to heaven and back again, going through the center of this golden egg, sitting on the white lotus. This is your Jiva Atman, your eternal soul, the seat of your divine essence. Now expand the white light throughout your body and feel this golden energy form as a halo around your astral body. And you see this golden aura all around you. You can feel it growing and throbbing and expanding to fill the whole room. You can even expand it beyond the room. This is your golden light. This is your essence. Protects you, allows to keep you at a high level of consciousness, allows you to act from your higher self in the world. And for the next few breaths, as the music fades, continue to see this golden light all around you, shining in all directions and increasing in brightness with each inhale. Brighter and brighter and brighter. Maintain this visualization.